Hey students, thanks for joining and welcome to this video. We're going to be talking about prayer, right? One of the things that we want to help you guys grow in is not just Bible reading, but also in prayer. We want to help you understand what it is, and equally as important, we want to help you actually know how to pray. There are ways for you to grow in actually practicing prayer, right? It's no good if you just know things about prayer, but don't actually pray. And so we want to help you do both. And so we're going to be looking at a passage today where Jesus is teaching us how to pray. So let's get into that passage. All right, so a few years ago, I bought my very first espresso machine. I don't know if you like making coffee, but I enjoy making coffee. Well, I bought this espresso machine and I had no idea how to use it, right? It's kind of complicated. It's not like one of those like Keurig coffee makers. It's not just a coffee maker that you just press on and off. It involves some work. It involves a learning curve. And so I got the machine and I wasn't really familiar with this particular machine. And so what did I do? I threw out the instructions. I didn't read them, and instead I went on YouTube. And on YouTube, I learned from the subject matter experts. You've probably heard that phrase before, right? Subject matter experts. These are men and women who are professionals in their field, whether that's making coffee, whether that's sewing, whether that's, cycling or playing basketball. But these are experts in their field. So for example, let's say you wanted to write a fantasy book. Maybe a subject matter expert to consult would be J.K. Rowling, right? She wrote Harry Potter. She knows what she's doing. She's a subject matter expert. Or let's say you wanted to learn how to play basketball. Maybe a good subject matter expert would be to contact LeBron James and to ask him to help you how to play basketball, right? These are people who are experts in their field. Now, the question is, if we wanted to learn how to pray, who would be the subject matter expert that we would turn to? Now, here's the thing. We know that prayer is important, and I think all of us know that we should be doing it more, but if we're honest, it's just hard for us to do. It's hard for us to do because a lot of the times we're confused about what prayer is, and we're also confused about how to actually do the prayer. And so we need a subject matter expert to teach us how to pray. And really, the Bible is filled with subject matter experts on prayer, right? We can turn to the Psalms and we can learn how to pray from David, right? David wrote a good amount of the Psalms, and the Psalms really teach us on the importance of just being real in our prayers and just bringing the real me to the real God, and just pouring my heart out and pouring my emotions out. And the Psalms and David teach us to do that. We can also turn to Paul's letters. If you read Paul's letters in the New Testament, he's oftentimes praying not just for himself, but also for other people. He's praying for the churches that he's writing to. He's praying that they would grow in their faith. He's praying that they would be strengthened and grow in love. And he's also asking them to pray for him, that he would be emboldened and courageous to share the gospel. And so David is a good subject matter expert on prayer. The Apostle Paul is a good subject matter expert on prayer. But what about Jesus? I mean, I think you would agree that the top subject matter expert on anything, whether that's prayer, whether that's, whatever it may be, the true subject matter expert is Jesus. And so what does Jesus say about prayer? Well, there's a story in Luke's gospel where Jesus' disciples actually have that question. How do we pray? What does it mean for us to pray, and how do I do it? And obviously they don't have Google, they don't have YouTube, but they have something better. They have God in the flesh. They have Jesus right there. And so they turn to Jesus and they say, Jesus, help us. How do we pray? Teach us to pray. Help us grow in this area. You're a subject matter expert, so teach us how to pray. So the story picks up in Luke 11. It says, "Now Jesus was praying in a certain place, and when he was finished, one of his disciples said to him, 'Lord, teach us to pray, as John taught his disciples.' And Jesus said to them, 'When you pray.'" Let's stop right there. I mean, how do you think Jesus would finish that sentence? When you pray, just talk to God, right? I mean, Christianity is, after all, a relationship, and in most of our relationships, we're not structured. We just talk to our friends. We just talk to our parents. We just tell them what's on our hearts. And so maybe Jesus is trying to teach us that, praying is just saying whatever's on our heart. And it is that, but Jesus doesn't say that. When you pray, get into the right prayer posture, right? All throughout the Bible, there are different postures of prayer. Some people pray with their arms stretched out in the air. Some people pray with their eyes closed and their heads bowed. Some people are just kind of like spread out on the floor. The Bible doesn't teach us that there's one right prayer posture. It shows us a ton of prayer postures. You can pray in a lot of different ways, but Jesus doesn't talk about that. He doesn't say when you pray, pray like this, pray in this posture. So he doesn't say just have a normal, natural conversation. He doesn't say, pray in this prayer posture. How about time? Does Jesus say when you pray, pray before your meals? Or pray in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening? Throughout the Bible, we see people like Daniel. Daniel prayed 3 times a day. And so there are examples of people praying multiple times throughout the day. The Apostle Paul, he says, pray without ceasing. Go throughout your day offering up short prayers to God. But Jesus doesn't say that. Now, isn't that interesting? He doesn't say, when you pray, just have a conversation with God. He doesn't say, when you pray, get into a certain prayer posture. He doesn't say, when you pray, pray at this certain time. So what in the world does Jesus say? He says, when you pray, when you encounter the God of the universe, pray like this. And he actually gives us a pattern for how to pray. He gives us this thing that we call the Lord's Prayer. And so in our next video, we're going to get into this pattern and we're going to discuss it more.